When you think of America's answer to Downton Abbey, you're actually picturing Old Westbury Gardens, where Carnegie steel millions transformed Long Island farmlands into an aristocratic paradise that makes today's luxury developments look temporary. Drive through those wrought iron gates and enter a world where wealth wasn't measured by square footage, but by the quality of craftsmanship in every doorknob, window frame, and garden bed. Each element selected not to create envy, but beauty that deepens with time. The Rose Garden's mathematical precision reveals what the Phipps family understood instinctively. True luxury means creating surroundings that nourish the soul rather than simply announcing your net worth. Follow the intoxicatingly fragrant lilac walk and feel the difference between architecture built to impress versus spaces designed to be lived in. Notice that magnificent American beech tree? Its branches reach directly into the west porch, showcasing old money's sophisticated understanding of the relationship between architecture and nature, a harmony most contemporary designers can't begin to approach. In today's old money mansions, we explore the billion-dollar garden where a steel fortune created not just a spectacular home, but a living proof of what wealth can achieve when paired with genuine taste and cultural refinement. When you first lay eyes on Old Westbury Gardens, you'll understand immediately why the ultra-wealthy once believed that money actually could buy good taste. Sprawling across 200 acres of prime Long Island real estate, this magnificent estate makes most modern mansions look like desperate wannabes playing dress-up in their parents' clothes. The imposing Charles II-style mansion, that's King Charles II to architectural novices, rises with a quiet confidence that whispers rather than shouts its importance. A refreshing departure from today's "look at me" glass monstrosities. Those gorgeous red brick facades with limestone accents serve as textbook examples of Carolean architecture, executed with a precision that would make modern builders weep into their spirit levels. Step inside Westbury House and prepare for 23 rooms of residential perfection, where every stick of furniture tells a story of craftsmanship that frankly embarrasses what passes for luxury these days. The hand-carved paneling throughout showcases exceptional artisanship, rarely found in contemporary construction, representing a level of detail almost extinct in modern building practices. Art connoisseurs will recognize works by Reynolds and Gainsborough on the walls, authentic masterpieces that have witnessed centuries of human drama while elevating the aesthetic experience of each room. That spectacular John Singer Sargent painting of Mrs. Henry Phipps with her grandson Winston Frederick Churchill Guest functions as a painted declaration of social connections that would make even today's influencers green with envy. Moving outdoors, you're greeted by terraces surrounding three sides of the house, linking interior and exterior spaces in such a way that modern architects constantly attempt but rarely achieve with such seamless elegance. The South Terrace offers views down the South Allée, a staggering 1.5-acre expanse of perfect lawn bordered by towering hemlocks, the horticultural equivalent of a royal carpet rolled out just for you. Garden enthusiasts will practically faint over the walled garden, with its Italianate styling and dizzying array of herbaceous perennials that create waves of color that absolutely shame the average suburban attempt at gardening. The Rose Garden makes every other rose garden look like a hasty afterthought, with its geometrically perfect beds outlined in Japanese holly, arranged in a mathematical pattern that's both rigorous and romantic. For sheer sensory overload, follow the aptly named Primrose Path to the Lilac Walk, where spring brings a fragrance so intoxicating it should probably require a warning label from health authorities. Children raised here lived practically royally, with birthday gifts like the thatched cottage, a playhouse so elaborate most of us would happily live in it full-time if given the chance. The West Pond offers a more naturalistic scene, anchored by the colonnade and reflecting pool, where a terracotta Diana stands frozen in classical perfection, probably wondering why modern sculptures so rarely achieve such grace. Eastlake provides another lesson in landscape design with its spring-fed waters surrounded by carefully selected trees, creating a woodland idyll that appears natural but requires meticulous planning and maintenance. Throughout these gardens, you'll spot rare plant specimens that even seasoned horticulturalists might struggle to identify. Plants selected with botanical knowledge far beyond grabbing whatever blooms brightly at garden centres. The genius of Old Westbury Gardens lies in how the relationship between house and landscape creates a seamless whole, architecture and nature engaged in a perfect dance rather than an awkward competition. That magnificent American beech whose branches reach directly into the west porch represents a deliberate statement about bringing nature and architecture together that most contemporary designers could learn from. To understand how this paradise came into being, we must follow the extraordinary steel fortune that allowed the Phipps family to transform sheep pastures into this artwork of American aristocratic aspiration. Behind every great fortune there's usually a fascinating story, and in the case of Old Westbury Gardens, it begins with two childhood chums who grew up to reshape America's industrial landscape. Henry Phipps Jr., born in 1839 to English immigrants, formed a friendship with a scrappy fellow named Andrew Carnegie that would eventually transform both boys from working-class Pennsylvanians into industrial titans. Their partnership in founding Carnegie Steel Company proved spectacularly successful, the 19th century equivalent of hitting the startup lottery, creating one of the most profitable industrial enterprises in American history. When J.P. Morgan purchased Carnegie Steel in 1901 for the staggering sum of $480 million, that's about $14 billion in today's money, darlings, Henry Phipps found himself swimming in a personal fortune of $50 million. While some newly minted millionaires build gaudy mansions that screamed, "I've arrived," with all the subtlety of a foghorn, the Phipps family cultivated more of an understated image that aimed for the appearance of old money rather than nouveau riche ostentation. Henry's son, John Schaefer Phipps, Jay to his friends, had the good sense to marry Margarita Grace in 1903, daughter of the Grace shipping line family, giving him both a charming wife and impeccable social connections. Margarita's homesickness for her native England, particularly her family home at Battle Abbey in East Sussex, prompted one of history's grandest romantic gestures, a husband building an entire English country estate to cure his wife's nostalgia. 200 acres of prime Long Island real estate in Old Westbury proved the canvas for their ambitious project. Strategically positioned in an era already becoming the playground of New York's elite, but with enough space to create a world apart. For their designer, the couple made the inspired choice of Englishman George A. Crawley, an artist rather than a formally trained architect, selecting a gifted creative visionary over a technically trained professional. Crawley's vision embraced Carolian Revival architecture, a style harkening back to the reign of King Charles II, 1660 to 1685, characterized by the perfect symmetry and classical elements that give Westbury House its timeless appeal. Construction began in 1904 with Crawley overseeing everything from structural plans to doorknobs, creating a coherent vision rarely achieved when homeowners allowed competing designers to muddle their aesthetic. By 1906, Westbury House stood complete with 23 residential rooms, perfectly proportioned and detailed with an authenticity that set it apart from many larger Gilded Age mansions. The service wing, added in 1911 by architect Horace Trumbauer, added 24 more rooms, because running a proper household required space for an army of staff doing everything from preparing 7-course dinners to pressing newspapers. Inside, the interiors showcased English antiques and decorative arts from the 17th and 18th centuries, objects selected for their craftsmanship, provenance, and aesthetic harmony with the architectural surroundings. While Jay bankrolled the project, it was Margarita who collaborated most closely with Crawley on the gardens, demonstrating that behind many great estates stands a woman with exquisite taste and the determination to realize her vision. Their partnership produced gardens that married English tradition with American scale, creating a series of outdoor rooms ranging from the geometric formality of the Rose Garden to the naturalistic setting of the East Lake. Margarita's gardening philosophy balanced beauty with practicality. Cutting gardens provided fresh flowers for massive arrangements throughout the house, while vegetable gardens supplied the family table with seasonal produce. The estate evolved organically over decades, with additions like the thatched cottage, a lavish birthday gift for daughter Peggy, the aromatic lilac walk installed in the 1920s, and the classical colonnade and reflecting pool added in 1929. Each element added to Old Westbury Gardens respected the original concept, while allowing the property to evolve with the family's changing needs. A lesson in thoughtful expansion that today's developers would do well to study. What emerged from the Phipps vision stands as an authentic translation of English country living to American soil, setting the stage for decades of gracious entertainment and family life that would elevate Old Westbury Gardens from mere real estate to a cultural touchstone. For roughly half a century, Old Westbury Gardens reigned as one of America's premier private estates, hosting the kind of lifestyle that makes even today's billionaires look like amateurs at the art of gracious living. The Phipps family, Jay, Margarita, and their 4 children, John Schaefer Jr., Michael Grace, Peggy, and Avery, lived in the kind of splendid isolation that modern celebrities would sell their souls to paparazzi for. Their staff of dozens included formally trained French chefs, specialized gardeners, and domestic professionals, rather different from today's multitasking housekeepers expected to cook, clean, and probably file your taxes. Daily life at Old Westbury Gardens followed rhythms established by centuries of aristocratic tradition, with mornings perhaps dedicated to correspondence in the study, afternoons to garden walks or sporting pursuits, and evenings to entertaining in rooms illuminated by crystal chandeliers. Summer days might find family members playing tennis on one of the 2 perfectly maintained lawn courts in the South Allée, followed by cooling dips in their swimming pool built in the early 1920s, long before infinity edges became architectural requirements. The Phipps' passion for equestrianism found expression in extensive stables and riding trails throughout the property, allowing for impromptu gallops across their estate without encountering a single member of the public. Social life centered around a carefully curated calendar of events that brought together New York society, European nobility, and business associates, cultivating connections through shared experiences in beautiful surroundings. Think of formal dinners where conversation ranged from politics to literature, followed by musical performances in rooms acoustically designed for chamber music rather than digital sound systems. The gardens provided ever-changing backdrops for entertainment, with spring luncheons amid flowering dogwoods, summer cocktails near blooming roses, and autumn gatherings where the turning leaves provided nature's own decoration. For the Phipps children, the estate offered childhood experiences beyond imagination, where a young girl received an entire thatched cottage as a birthday present rather than a plastic playhouse. Holidays at Old Westbury Gardens took on legendary proportions, with Christmas decorations harvested from the estate's own evergreens and New Year celebrations that might include midnight walks through garden paths illuminated by carefully placed lanterns. Margarita's horticultural passion manifested in continuous refinements to the gardens, particularly the walled garden, where her preference for vibrant color schemes with herbaceous perennials, roses and bulbs created seasonal displays that professional garden designers still study today. The 1920s brought the addition of the fragrant lilac walk, transforming spring at Old Westbury Gardens into an olfactory experience so intoxicating that guests might forget they were just a train ride from Manhattan's grit and chaos. Even pets received aristocratic treatment, with the addition of the dog graveyard near the lilac walk, where beloved 4-legged family members received proper memorials with slate, granite and marble gravestones, elevating pet remembrance to an art form. The installation of the colonnade and reflecting pool in 1929 created yet another photogenic setting for social gatherings, though one imagines the stock market crash that same year might have dampened some of the celebrations. Despite the economic challenges of the Great Depression, the Phipps' substantial fortune allowed them to maintain Old Westbury Gardens with minimal compromise, financial constraints being rather relative when you're starting with millions. World War II brought different challenges, with material shortages, reduced staff, and a general shift in priorities, though the estate continued functioning as the family's primary residence during this transformative global conflict. Post-war America's changing social landscape posed new threats to estates like Old Westbury Gardens, with soaring taxes, shifting cultural values, and the increasing difficulty of finding staff who would dedicate their lives to maintaining another family's domestic perfection. The death of J. Phipps in 1958 marked the end of an era, leaving Margarita and eventually their daughter Peggy facing difficult decisions about a property designed for a lifestyle that was rapidly disappearing in 20th century America. Unlike many similar estates that succumbed to subdivision, demolition, or institutional conversion, Old Westbury Gardens found salvation through an unexpected transformation that would preserve its beauty while fundamentally changing its relationship with the public it once excluded. In a move that surely had old money families clutching their pearls, Peggy Phipps opened Old Westbury Gardens to the public in 1959, establishing a non-profit foundation that transformed one of America's most exclusive addresses into a democratic space where anyone with the pride of admission could experience surroundings once reserved for social elites. This revolutionary conversion from private sanctuary to public attraction represented both practical adaptation to changing economic realities and a genuinely altruistic act of cultural preservation at a time when similar estates were being carved into suburban developments faster than you could say property taxes. Today's visitors experience Old Westbury Gardens from April through October, with a range of ticket options providing access to spaces that once evaluated potential guests based on social connections rather than ability to purchase admission. The Old Westbury Gardens Foundation manages the property while balancing historical authenticity with financial viability, a high-wire act requiring both scholarly respect for the past and the pragmatism of a modern business operation. Preservation efforts demand extraordinary investments, exemplified by the $4 million roof restoration completed in 2019 using Collyweston slate imported from the United Kingdom, authenticity that comes with substantial price tags. Hollywood discovered this photogenic paradise decades ago, with Old Westbury Gardens appearing in over 25 films, including Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest and Love Story, providing income for the foundation and immortalizing the estate for audiences worldwide. Television productions from Sex and the City to The Gilded Age have utilized these picture-perfect settings more recently, with directors appreciating that Old Westbury Gardens provides instant visual shorthand for old money that no studio set could replicate. Education initiatives have become a cornerstone of the Foundation's mission, offering programs from architectural tours to horticultural workshops that make this former bastion of privilege an unexpected resource for public education. Special events animate the calendar throughout the open season, including outdoor concerts where audiences picnic on lawns once reserved for croquet, classic car shows displayed against architectural backdrops from the same era, and festivals celebrating cultural traditions. Weddings and private events now allow couples to create memories in settings once reserved for society's upper echelons, though the Phipps would likely approve of romance flourishing in gardens designed with beauty as their primary purpose. Corporate functions utilize various spaces for meetings and client entertainment, bringing business discussions into surroundings far removed from the sterile conference rooms and hotel ballrooms that typically host such gatherings. The modern gift shop offers visitors the chance to take home a piece of Old Westbury Gardens through garden-inspired merchandise and books about the estate's history, providing both souvenirs and revenue. Holiday programming has become particularly popular, with Christmas at Westbury House featuring period decorations that offer a glimpse of how the Phipps family might have celebrated the season, capturing historical traditions with contemporary accessibility. Climate change poses new challenges for the historic gardens, with shifting weather patterns requiring adaptations to horticultural practices established in eras before carbon footprint entered the lexicon. The COVID-19 pandemic forced temporary closures and visitor restrictions, accelerating the development of virtual tours and online programming that continue expanding the estate's reach beyond those able to visit in person. Digital initiatives now extend Old Westbury Gardens' influence globally through social media, virtual exhibitions and online educational resources, connecting this physical place to audiences the original owners could never have imagined. Looking toward the future, the foundation balances preservation with innovation, seeking to maintain historical integrity while finding new ways to make this cultural treasure relevant to contemporary audiences and financially sustainable. While some breathless reports have suggested a valuation of $1 billion for the property, real estate professionals estimate the actual market value in the tens to hundreds of millions, though such calculations miss the essential cultural value of this architectural treasure. The true achievement of Old Westbury Gardens in its current incarnation lies in the democratization of beauty, transforming a private paradise built for the few into a shared cultural resource available to anyone who appreciates extraordinary architecture and horticultural artistry. And now we'd like to see you in the comments. If you could visit Old Westbury Gardens during any season, which would you choose and why? We look forward to hearing from you, and with that said, thanks for joining us for another episode. Cheers, until the next one.